Hey there, everyone. My name is Clappin' Cheeks. I always get called a sub main. People ask me how to play subs, and I always find out that really I tell them that subs are, for the most part, just DDs that use water for their smoke coverage. Your main objectives are spotting, controlling caps, controlling areas, area denial, and that's mainly how I play it. Some things here we're going to see is pretty much how to keep people away from going down the lines that you don't want them to go down, giving some support, take the opportunity to kill when you can. And one of the few things I've always said is do not rely on your acoustic torpedoes. One, if you can, the pings are always a dead giveaway of where you're at. Gives the enemy ability to track you in ways that you do not want to be tracked. So here was a game from earlier today that I decided to save. We'll just go back over this a little bit. One of the bigger things too is also how you set up your commander. What makes it worth it. Overall, is just one of the ways that you could sit here and decide if you want to be more stealthy, if you want to be in and out. It all just kind of depends on your play style. I'll go over the captain build after this. So you can see in here I have my dummy torps are 12.3 kilometers. They're really slow, but they hit very hard. I will always kind of shadow and see and follow that gray tracer of where the ship is going to be at and use that to my advantage. Kind of know how to close that gap in closer if it's a target I want to take out. Unfortunately, I have a split to my left and don't feel like being radared. Lucky for me, I have a DD that is going to shadow him a little bit here. I'll pop up just to periscope depth, keep that spot on the Pensacola. Put some torpedoes out his way. These are the dummy alternate ones. Unfortunately, I have a sub, the U-boat coming up right behind me. This is one of the times that you do want to ping, see where the sub's at. Luckily, when you use this, you can see on the minimap that he will consistently be moving forward. As long as he doesn't go underwater, you see now he's turning out on the minimap. But always good to throw a couple torpedoes out. Use your rear torpedoes if you can. And that would also be the Pensacola that I shot my torpedoes at earlier. So I got him off the map. Kind of have that U-190 spotted for a little bit, or for lack of better words, tracked. I know some people like to use Watchful. I don't usually use it. I'll use it for like the higher tier games and tier 10 for my subs, but in tier 8 most of the hydro and the radar at this tier is on the lower side. But what I'm doing here is, even though I missed, I'm gonna try to come up for another shot even though his hydro is still running. Keep that sub spotted so I could have those two DDs take care of him in the Baltimore. But let's see if we get this hydro going. We can wait for it to time out for a little bit. He does have 6 kilometer hydro. 6 kilometers away now. I shouldn't be hydrated anymore. Just stay away from him a little bit. I'm gonna keep popping some torpedoes out at him in that general area to see if I could keep them back and away from the Nagata or the Baltimore a little bit. Kind of gives them a Gives them a little bit of a buffer to be able to maneuver and kind of close that gap in and have my team be able to push up. Fortunately, I got right back into that shill's 6-kilometer hydro again. The unfortunate thing about the hydro with subs is even if you're at periscope depth, you could still be hydroed. But really keep that in mind. A big thing to help with your gameplay too is I don't know if you will want to use mods, but there's Aslins and Mod Station that both will show what ships have what type of consumables, whether they have hydro or radar, and that's just kind of a good way to know. So if there's a new ship that you're not familiar with and you see it, you lock on, you'll be able to see. Right now it shows the North Carolina next to my mini map. It just shows its top speed, its detect range, and its firing range. But if I lock onto anything else, it will show that has radar or hydro. It will show the distance. It never shows the time, but it'll show the distance, and that's a good way to kind of gauge how close you want to get to that ship. So now I'm going to make really dumb choices. By dumb, we can say ballsy. We'll see if we can go after this Doria and this Jokasi. Never say some of these words right. We'll figure it out one day. One day I'll be able to say ship names properly. And English is my first and only language, so it makes it even worse. My service detect is 5.5, so I go down to periscope depth to try to keep this, keep these eyes without being spotted still for a little longer. Sometimes you can spread them out if they're at a further distance. I like to spread out my torpedoes a little bit, but when they're this close, typically I don't. But he did slow down before those were even spotted, so that is unfortunate. And then I got spotted. I gotta play dodge the ASW, which I don't do super well right here. Well enough, but definitely not what I wanted. I got 16 seconds left before those torpedoes are good again. I'm also watching that cruiser coming up on my right side. There he is, 3.6 kilometers. Periscope depth, he won't see me. Some more dummy torps, what I call them, out. These dummy torps on any of the cruise or any of the subs that you get are always going to have harder hitting damage to them, like that. 4 torpedoes, causing a flood. He has a general idea of where I'm at, but he never saw me. Now here, I'm definitely within my periscope detect range, but this is going to be a little suicide mission. I'm getting spotted for a second, but for me, getting him out is a fair trade for a little bit of damage. I'm not really injured, even though I do spit out a little bit of oil here, running out of air. We'll do a little bit of a spread here, which he beached himself, but if he didn't, he would have been dead anyways. So good job on that West Virginia for cleaning up. One of the biggest things with playing a sub is, like I said, playing a DD, that your detect and a DD's detect are very close to each other. So your biggest adversary really is DDs, because they can sneak up on you as much as you can sneak up on any other ship. But that's when you want to use your acoustic torpedoes. Using the acoustic torpedoes can give you that little extra bend that you need to hopefully lock on. And you always want to fire your torpedoes first before you hit them with a ping. Get those out there, give them a little bit of time to travel. I'm not sure how that went underneath his bow, but it did. That's alright. He is now getting focused. I am spotting him. And he's cleared it, but not enough time for my torpedoes to actually start bending. I want to see that one little pop on him to finish him off. At this point, we have pretty much pushed everything away from their cap. And now it's just a waiting game. If the Colorado decides to turn around and push the cap, try to get it reset, I'll be here waiting for him. Like I said, at this point, it's just area denial. So you hear slow down, kind of watch what's going on around us, and play the objective. Minimap awareness is super key. As much as it is when you're playing in a cruiser, DD, or battleship, in a sub it's huge. Because if something goes undetected and you're undetected, the last thing you want to do is pop up right next to a DD, a cruiser, a battleship, really, literally anything, and be surprised by a barrage of secondaries, main battery guns, ASW, and that's a good way to get yourself in. But always use, if you're not quite sure, always use your hydrophone. Some ships, these are unlimited. Some of them you only have a certain amount of charges to them. So use that to kind of see and gauge if you're not quite sure if there's a ship around you and you need to come up for recharging your batteries. Always pop that about a minute before you have to come back up to the surface. But as you see, the most of the time I'm underwater is when I'm trying to go in for a kill. Otherwise, playing surface is really your best option for the vast majority. And of course, this is going to change depending on how the game plays out, how many DDs there might be on the team, how many battleships, how many cruisers, the kind of cruisers, how much hydra, how much radar you have. But as a whole, really knowing what ships have what when it comes to countering you is a huge win in itself. I finished capping this up in 4, 3, 2, 1 as a game. So as a sub, your job is not to go out there and try to kill everything you see, though taking out some of the more key players or doing a lot of damage, generally being a nuisance is good, but you do want to support your cruisers, your other your DDs, other subs if you can, your battleships. You're there for spotting. You're there for spotting, objectives, kills, just like you are in a DD. So you see the spotting damage, you know, did quite a bit of spotting damage. Keep things lit as much as you can. I've seen plenty of times where people will play as subs, and as soon as they're spotted, they dive down and you won't see them for the rest of the game. You're not helping yourself out, and you're not helping out your team. And helping out your team is huge. You are most definitely a supported vehicle. So here is my S-189 build and my captain. This is for 21 point captain build. Now, for the most part, I follow what they recommend, minus a few things that I decided to change out for my particular playstyle. The things that are always the most useful is torpedo reload time. Uh, Definitely want to make sure you get your floods. Your enhanced sonar, I go for battery life as much as I possibly can. So dive capacity, yes, it gives me plus 10% and minus 20% on the charge reload. But by throwing this on the end of it, you really only gain 5%. You're not losing that 20, but you are gaining 5. It is worth that extra, just not taking that huge hit. And with it, always, like any build on any ship ever in the game, adrenaline rush. But I go for right here. Some people will take the consumable specialist. Some will do for the watchful. Now watchful is useful, especially if you're new to the subs. Definitely a skill to take for allowing you to be an undetected submarine. Displays an indicator showing that a submarine is currently within the action range of an activated enemy hydro surveillance radar or submarine surveillance consumables. So if you're underwater looking for a ship and you're gonna end up coming up to throw some very fun torpedoes at their way, you'll have an icon that lets you know if there are hydros up. So going to periscope depth probably won't be your best bet. You'll know to use your acoustic and not dummy torps. Throw those out, hit them with a ping while you're already turned away. Do not be nose in hitting them with a ping. Launch your torpedoes, turn to the left, turn to the right, do a 90-degree turn, be parallel with that ship, ping them, and it's always better to get 4 low-hitting torpedoes than 0 torpedoes. Give you that chance of causing maybe 20k worth of damage, maybe a flood, maybe an incapacitation, anything you can do to assist your team on that particular aspect. You could also throw superintendent on if you want that extra consumable, but because I'm using the S-189, I have the special commander on it, which has a fun little ability, which we all know and love. Activates once per battle. If your ship's HP falls below 10%, you will gain additional health. Dispersion of enemy shells stacking your ship plus 20%, which doesn't really matter so much for a sub, but a huge one. Extinguishes fires, removes incidents of flooding, and repairs damaged modules, preventing enemy submarine launch torpedoes from homing. It's really a catch-all of saying you're going to be alive for a little bit longer. This right here could take you from going completely belly up, or I guess turning into a coral reef, to being able to escape, reassess your situation, and come back into the fight. So huge for the S-189. I do call the S-189 the Gato of tier 8, strictly because of its dive time, the torpedoes, and the sheer speed of just everything. The concealment, maneuverability. The rudder shift time, I do make this as shifty as possible. Being able to change the direction and avoid ASW is very key to extending your survival rate. The modules on here, I just go with the same basic build that they do suggest, and Wargaming hit this one right on the nose. But with it all, we'll go over the torpedoes on here. The homing torpedoes, 9 kilometers. You have to be fairly close to use these, and they are not very quick at all. At 68 knots, only do 5,000 damage. They're kind of like hitting, especially with being up tiered in a tier 10 game, and you're up against a, well, I don't know, we'll say a Shikishima, because that happened to me earlier today. I really don't want to go up there and slap him on the, just boop him on the nose with my purse. Hitting them lightly is just going to piss him off. I'd rather sit there and do a little bit more damage. So going with the alternative torpedoes, 78 knots are quite a bit quicker. Yes, they get detected 300 meters sooner, but they go 10 knots faster and do almost 3 times the amount of damage. I will much rather launch those from a safer distance without having to use a ping and do a lot more damage than being close up and personal and possibly getting ended by some tier 10 ASW. If you have any questions for me, please post them in the comments below. I'll be doing more videos on funny and interesting captain builds of things you wouldn't think of. If there's any captain builds that you want to see and you don't want to spend the coin, the resources to do it, please let me know, because I will be more than happy to try out some interesting combinations on some interesting ships. One of them is I do like the Castilla here in a full lighthouse build, and I've played quite a few games with it. Definitely interesting concept over having it more of a island hopper, but we will see some more things coming down the line. I will be putting out videos at least once a week. If you have suggestions, please let me know, because I am always down to do some stupid things, if not for at least a good laugh. Catch me every night on Twitch at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time till 8 a.m. in the morning. I am that late night overnight streamer. Giveaways every Friday night into Saturday morning, and the last day of the month I do a 24-hour streams, and this past one I gave out over 60,000 doubloons. So that is a reoccurring thing. I will see you guys then. As always, have a good night, good day, good morning, wherever you're at in the world, and keep being good people. Till next time.